how can I make my access form filter between months, say from two drop-down lists of year and month, instead of using actual, full dates? I'm your host, Sean McKenzie, and today we're going to take a look at how to select months instead of dates, and then have your form and your report update accordingly. Without further ado, let's get to it. Okay, so getting started here, I'm using the same access file that we used in some of our other examples, and I've got this simple table here called work hours, and it's got a few fields in it for some fictional companies, and we're going to see that it's got a company name, employee ID, and then it has this date worked field that we can use for our date range, because we're going to use that. This is an actual date field. You might see this displayed differently in your country. If you're in the United States, you'll probably see 1/4 for that, with the year on the end. It doesn't really matter. That's just a display issue. But what we're going to do today is we're going to take that date and we're going to do some cool stuff with the month. And so what we're going to do is first we'll go to the Create ribbon and select New Query Design. You can close that pop-up that comes up, and just drag your table, in my case it's this work hours table, onto the query design, and I'm going to select everything by double-clicking on the star there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new field in this query, and I think I'll call it month worked. And what this is going to be is we're gonna take the date worked, which is an actual date field, and we're going to display it in a way that can be sorted, which is the first thing we need, in the right order, but then also we can use it for filtering. So we can do a between, and it'll sort it according to the year and the month, and that's exactly what we want. So we're going to use the format function. We'll say format, and then the first argument is date worked, and then the second argument will be YYYY and -mm. And so that's going to give us a date that is nice and easy to see. It gives just the year and the month, and that is the field that we're going to use to move forward with. And so if I go to the datasheet view, you can see now we've got all the same fields that we had before, but we've got a new field on the end here with just the year and the month, and that is exactly what we want to see. That's going to give us that nice date format for the year and the month that's easy to use in our querying. And so I'll save this query as work hours month, and that's going to give us a nice basis query or base query to use for our record source in a new form. So we'll go to the Create ribbon and we'll create a new form with Form Wizard. This is just for demonstration. I'll find the query called work hours month in the list here, and that's going to give me a nice view of the fields, and I can use those fields. I can select one of them or several of them, and as you can see, we've got all the fields from that view, and I'm just going to take all of those fields and I'll move that over, and I'll hit next. I'll select the columnar report default there, and then I'll save it, and I'm just going to add the _form to the end of the name so we know that that's a form, and I'll just open it to view. So you can see this is like the default view that you'll get, form that you'll get when you use the Form Wizard. You can see there's 444 records in this record set, just like there was in the table, obviously, and that's what we're going to start with. So now we can go to the design of our form, and I'm going to grab a little bit of real estate there, And what we're going to do is we're going to grab drop down lists or combo boxes, and there's our combo box up on the design form design ribbon there, and I'll drop that on there. I'm just going to hit cancel, and I'll just format this one myself, and here we go. So there's a label that comes with that, and I'll just put start month in there. And then for this, this is our combo box here, and what I'm going to do is I'll move that up and we're going to go to the properties. So you're going to click on it to highlight it, and then we'll go to the properties, and we're going to name that combo box. We'll call it CBO start, and that's going to give us a nice combo box to use for our start date. And what we'll do is we'll click on the data tab in the property sheet, and this is where we can enter our select query. And this is pretty easy. We're going to skip using the designer. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to say select distinct month worked, and that's the new field that we have in our query from work hours month. So now we're going to get the distinct list of all of the year-month combinations that exist in the table, and then I'll order that by month worked. And then we can use that query. That's going to allow us to sort of see all of the possible combinations that are in the sort of working table. So now if I click on this, now you can see there's this nice list here of year-month combinations that I can use to start sorting. But we need one more thing, and that's going to be an end month, because we need an end month too. So we can basically take this whole combo box, Control C, Control V, and that's going to paste it right below there, and we'll say end month instead of start month. And then we'll click on the object, the combo box, and we'll go to the other tab. We're going to give it a name that makes sense. We'll call it CBO end, and then we don't really need to do anything in the data tab because we already sort of created that in the first one. And so now what we can do is we can see that we've got two combo boxes. We've got a start and an end month, and we can continue on here. So what we'll do is we'll start with the first combo box, and we're going to go to the event tab. We're going to take the ellipsis on the after update event there, and we'll choose the code builder, and then we'll go OK, and that's going to start up our Visual Visual Basic for Applications window here, the IDE, and you can see that it's given us that's an event procedure there, the CBO start after update, and we are going to use that. But before we do that, I'm going to make a function, and that's going to be called filter string. And what it's going to do is it's going to return the current state sort of between those two combo boxes. And so it's going to return the filter string that we can use on our form that'll filter the form to what we want, the date range. But also when we launch our report, we can also use our filter string there. So since we're going to use it in multiple places, it makes sense for us to create a reusable function that we'll use many times instead of copying code and pasting it multiple times into all different procedures. That's something you always want to watch out for. So make sure that you it's called DRY, dry, do not repeat yourself. So if you find that you're repeating your code, make sure that you go back and create a single function and then reuse that function in all of the places you would have pasted a big block of code. So what we're going to do is we'll create a variable for our return value. That's going to be str return, and I'll set that value to an empty string, And at the very end of the procedure, we're going to set the return value of the function to the return string that we created. So the string can change value as the procedure goes, and so that's what we want to catch. So we know that we need two values to do a date range. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if either of those combo boxes is empty, then just ignore it. And in this case, I'll say go to function exit, and then we'll create that a point in the code here called function exit, and we put a colon after it. So that means if either of those is true, if either of them are empty, it's going to jump ahead in the code to the function exit, which means it'll just return that empty string because we initialized that variable str return. We initialized that to an empty string, and if it jumps ahead to the end, then our function will just return an empty string, and that's what we want. So we'll create another couple of string variables. We'll create one for the start and one for the end, and then we'll set those values. We know that there's a value at this point in the code when it's running. We know that there's values in both of those drop-down boxes or combo boxes. And so what we're going to do is we'll create our return string. We're going to make the where clause that we can use in a filter on the form, and we're gonna make that where clause as a string. And so we'll say str return is equal to month worked, and then we'll use between, just like our SQL. We'll say between, and then inside of single quotes, we'll plug in our start and end dates there, and that's going to make our month worked between those dates. It's going to plug the dates, and that's exactly what we want. So we can assign this little string at any time. Once we sort of, we generate it, we can assign it to the filter for the form, or we can assign it to the filter for a report that's based off of the same query. So that's very, very handy. And so what we can do here is we can start to take a look at what we might do in our after update of that start. After we select something in the combo, the start combo, what's going to happen? So we can sort of like start some code here and see what we might do. And it might be something like, we'll create a filter string. We're going to make that equal to the filter string using the function. So now we've got that. We can see that we've got that in there already. And then we can say, well, if this if the length of our filter string is greater than 0, so we know that there were two values to choose from, so we are a go to filter this form, then we can say, me.filter is equal to the filter string. Very simple, right? And then we can go me.filter on is true. And so that's going to turn on the filter, which means the form's going to filter all of that data, exactly what we want. But we will also put an else in there, and if it isn't the case that there's something in the filter string, then we'll set the filter equal to nothing or an empty string, and then we'll say the filter on is equal to false. And this is a good example because when I look at this code here, this is a good example of how you should look at your code. I know I'm going to do the exact same thing after the end date as well. So that if I know I'm going to use that same code in the end date, then that's a sign that that I should make my own subroutine called update filter, and I'll paste in the code that I just wrote. And then now you can see the beauty of reusing your code. Now I can say, okay, on that CBO start after update, I can just put in update filter, and then when I select my end, CBO end from the drop downs there and the after update. In that one, I can also just put update filter because it'll do the same thing. So make sure that you don't paste blocks of code that could be put into a single function or a single subroutine and then just called once, because then if you ever have to go back and maintain it, you can just change it in one place. So that's a little lesson for you on reusability. So let's start our form. I'm going to select the start month and the end month, and let's just see if it works. Okay, it looks like it did filter it down. So there we go. So you can see the filter has turned on the form, and I can scroll through and you can see that all of these entries are within the date range of the months. And so I don't need to go and select, January 31st or February 29th. I don't need to know the start and end dates of that because we're selecting based off of that string. And so everything that we select here is going to be within that date range. Now you could add some, some validation saying don't select a date before the start or something like that. But you get the basics of this. So if I select the same month, you can see that also works for April. There we got 40 records in April, and that is exactly what we want to see when we filter our form. And now you guys might be wondering, what if I had a report? So we can do the same thing. We'll go create ribbon, and then we'll go to report wizard, and we've already got this work hours month query selected. We can go, we'll select everything and take the default options and go to tabular there, and then I'll call this work hours month report, and then I'll just preview just to see it, and you can see it looks like some fields are too big and some are too small like usual when you use the wizard, but this is the data from that table, and we're going to go into the design and just adjust a couple of things here so that we can see that date worked field. Okay, so this billable hours here, I can see that's too big. So I'll go to the report design ribbon there, format, and then I'll put that as a centered, and then I'll give a little bit of extra room to that date worked field so that we can see it. I think I'll make something else a bit smaller here too, maybe the company name, and I'll move that employee number over and just give some real estate to our date worked field here. And so now what I can do is I can open that in print preview just to see and make sure we can see it. Okay, great. So, this report here, now we can see the date, the 2019-0102. So that's January date, and it seems like it's kind of all, looks like it's jumbled up. If I go to the end, it's got the 2019-12 December records in there, and that's what we want to see there. Okay, so we can go, and we can go back to, now we can go back to our form, and I'm going to choose the button from the tools there. Or pardon me, from controls. I'll choose a button, and I'm just going to cancel that wizard. I'll move these two guys over here, and then now what we can do is we've got a command button, which is great to click, and so we'll call that CMD report, and what we're going to do is we're going to we'll put report on the caption here, and then we're going to make this button launch our report with a filter because that's what we wanted to do. So we've got our on-click event. We're going to click on that event tab, and then we'll choose the ellipsis there, and just like we did before, we'll go code builder and then OK, and that's going to take us back to our Visual Basic, and then now we've got this CMD report click event, and we can launch our report. And just like we did with the the combo boxes, we can reuse that filter string again. Very, very easy. So we'll just go, str filter is equal to filter string. So now we've used that a few times, and then we can open our report. And we're going to open our report in print preview. And so we'll do a do command .open report. We'll put the report name in. I think it was work hours month report, and then we'll use the view as AC view preview, which is the one that we want. We're going to skip the filter name, but we've got a where condition there that we can throw in, which is awesome, and because we can just put our filter in there, and boom, we've got our filtered report, and 3 lines of code. We've got a filtered report right from our drop-down combo boxes. So now if I go to my view and I change the selections around, we'll do 04 to 06, and I go report, and boom, we've got a report that is filtered. You can see it's all dates that are between 04 and 06. It looks like it's actually out of order. So there's some records that are not in order there, but we can fix that by going into the report on order. I should have chosen that when I used the wizard. There was an option to select the sorting order, and I skipped it. But we can do that. We'll go to the design view here. We'll right-click on that report, and we'll fix that. And all we have to do is use that order by entry there. We'll put our date worked in square brackets since there's a space in the name. And the order by on load is already set to yes. And so we can just save that. And now we can choose some other dates in our list here. We'll go from 07 to 09. And we'll hit that report button. And now we can see that it's sorted. Starting with the lowest and going all the way to the highest or latest dates. And so there's our July dates, and if I jump forward to the end of the report, you can see it's the dates for September. And that's how you filter forms and reports by month in Microsoft Access. Want more of this kind of content? Make sure to check out my Patreon. The link is in the description. Hope you enjoyed today's discussion on how to filter by month in Access. Have a great day, have a safe day, and I'll catch you next time.